I was saved when I was 9 years old, walking down the aisle of First Baptist Church, but I totally gave my life to Christ 3 years ago on the floor of a halfway house. I'm 16 years old, and I am a control freak. When I was little, my parents used to joke around and they would call me the cruise director because I had to be in charge of everything. If we were going on an outing, I had to have an itinerary and I had to know every little detail of everything we were doing. Basically, if there was something that I could be in control of, I was going to be in control of it. When I was 9, I walked down the aisle and got saved. I knew that Jesus was the Son of God, and I knew that He had died for my sins, but I never really gave my life to Him to let Him do what He wanted with it. When I was 10, my mom had a stillbirth, and when I was 11, she had another one. And all of a sudden, death became very real to me. It became very real that I could die, or my parents could die, or I could be taken from them. Nothing was guaranteed anymore. I started to have panic attacks pretty regularly as a result of all of this happening. My parents used to tell me that these were irrational fears, that the chances of something happening to one of them or to me were too small to spend every waking moment worried about them. But the root of my problem wasn't irrational. The root of my problem was that I wasn't in control, and I wasn't. My parents wanted to put me in therapy, but I wanted to control it myself. I wanted to fix myself, and I wouldn't let them. I continued to get worse as time went by. And then came Zach. When I was 12, and in the middle of my panic attack phase, we got a week-old foster baby who was born meth positive. When you have a foster baby in your house, you tell yourself not to get attached because the chances are that they aren't staying. You tell yourself that they're going to go home. But after a while, that boundary that you've created between you and that kid, it starts to break down and to fade away. And after a couple weeks, Zach was just my brother. He wasn't legally or biologically my brother, but in all aspects that mattered to me, he was. When I was 13 and he was 1, his biological mom started to really get serious about her case plan, and she started to make some serious strides, and it began to look like she was going to get him back, and we were going to lose him. I was back to panicking immediately, back to freaking out that there were things that weren't in my control, that I couldn't control whether he stayed or whether he went. During this time, his biological mom was having regular visitation with him, and so one day my dad and Zach and I went to her home to do a visitation. The place where she was staying was a halfway house that she was sharing with a couple other girls. And I can distinctly remember sitting on the floor of the halfway house because there weren't enough chairs, watching him play with his biological mom, and that's when I finally caved. That's when I realized that this could very well be his life, that he could very well grow up on the streets in the midst of drugs and without us, and I realized that I couldn't do anything about it. But I could trust the God who loved me and the God who could do something about it. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to His purpose." God works all things together for me, even if I can't see it. We may never see it. We may never understand why things have happened. We may never be able to put together the puzzle pieces of our lives, and it may never get better, but He knows what He's doing, and all we have to do is trust Him. I still struggle with trusting Him every single day, but it's no longer a matter of if I trust Him, but how I trust Him, figuring out how to do that in every situation that I'm presented with. Next week will mark 3 years of Zach being my legal brother and his adoption, and none of that is of my doing. My God is big, and He is amazing, and He works all things together for my good. My name is Juliana Jones, and my tab has been paid.